do I have baseball tonight?
6 o'clock.
Oh, and I have a concert on Thursday.
All right, what time is that?
Did anyone feed the dog?
Did you pack your lunch?
Hey, we're out of milk.
Okay,
Did you know we're out of milk?
yes, I know.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know that.
Let me guess, we're out of milk.
No, the washing machine is leaking.
Ah!
Hey, good morning. We are continuing today, and I know today is a complex day for many because it's Mother's Day, and some of you are moms, all of you had a mom or have a mom, and so if you are a mom here today, you're going to love this because basically I'm going to give your whole family a reason to give you a break as we talk about burnout, so you're welcome as we start off here today. So glad you're here because one of the things we've been talking about and finding out is burnout is real, right? It's real. And it comes in three ways. There's a physical burnout where you're just so tired, I'm physically exhausted. There's a mental exhaustion, right? There's an emotional exhaustion to life as we begin to look at this. And only one of those can be solved from a nap or a day off. Physical exhaustion, if you're real tired, you take a nap, you're good to go, you're ready to go. Mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, that's a whole different kind of tired, isn't it? Which is why some of you, it seems like you've been going through a fog. You've just been living in a fog for quite a while, and it's like you can't think right, you're not processing right. Somebody says, did you see that? And you're like, I didn't see it that way at all. What is that? That's probably a symptom of physical or a mental and emotional exhaustion. And so we've been looking at it, and we started last week. How are we going to define this and how are we going to look at this? But when the expectations of our life outgrow our capacity to respond, not react, because my guess is you are already reacting. Respond, if you're responding, when your capacity to respond is outgrowing your capacity of life, it leads to burnout. And we admitted that what happened is what you and I now call normal. That's just how it is. That's just what we have to do this week, next week, this month. Isn't working. That pace isn't working, and it leads to burnout. So we came up with a definition last week. The definition is burnout is when your soul, not your calendar, when your soul can no longer bear the weight of your life. And we all feel this on some level, and I don't have to convince you of that today, but the question that we want to look at today is, how did we get here? How did we get here? How many of you have ever vacationed at the ocean before? Anybody vacation at the ocean? Yeah. Anybody wade out into the ocean? I mean, obviously at shark appropriate levels. You wade out in the ocean, maybe you're throwing a ball, maybe you're letting the waves crash up against you, and you're just kind of out there for a while, enjoying yourself. And then all of a sudden you look up, and what's changed? You can't see your chair. You can't see your towel. You can't find your people. And you've been standing there the whole time. You don't know where they went. I mean, obviously you didn't move, right? And so there's this constant push and pull of the ocean. It can take you where you didn't want to go. And all of a sudden you look up and you're not where you thought you were. And it takes you a minute to find this out. And especially if you're swimming in the ocean, you have to find a reference point based off of what's happening around us. But the problem at the ocean is those reference points are constantly changing. And now you have a momentum piece. And this takes place for us too in our non-ocean playing, living life. It's called cultural drift, changing reference points. So what's the solution for this? Well, if you were to go to a person, or if I were to go to a person and you were to explain the complexities of your life, and you would talk about your calendar, and you talk about how you feel right now, and what would they probably say? If I sat down with you and you sat down with me, and I would say, and here's what we did last week, and this is blah, 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 and then we did this. And they would probably look at me and I would look at you and I would tell you, you know what you need? You should get some rest. You should take some time. And what we all think we need is rest. When we see the word rest or we hear the word rest, something awakens in us and we go, oh yeah, rest, wouldn't that be great? And then it's followed by an excuse like, but I know I need rest, but, and then we come up with a list and it's huge and it's massive and we look at this And we've tried stuff like vacation, but we talked about this last week. You go on vacation, you came home from vacation, and it didn't solve anything. In fact, it made it worse because now you have to catch up from everything that you paused for vacation. And so there's this chaos that breaks out in your life, and you want to take a break, but there's something more that you want. And I think what we're going to find out today is we actually don't want rest, even though that's what we say. We want rest, but rest isn't enough. What we actually want is restoration. And the good news is as we find out today, as we look at both the New Testament and the Old Testament today, we're going to find that there are things that were designed in the very fabric of who you and I are culturally and individually that are coming into play today. So Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, Jesus says these words to people like you and me, and he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary," and there's not like a vote where it's like, who's weary? You get in, okay, it's you, right? "All you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke," this can also mean teaching, "take my teaching upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls," which is good news because our souls can't carry the burden of our pace of life anymore. And he says, "For my yoke, my pace, my teachings are easy. And the burden that I'm going to place on you is light." Now, we have all kinds of language that's in here, but the tension we feel when we read these words of Jesus is we wonder, is this even possible? Like, it's a great phrase. In an ideal world, this would be fantastic, but it feels like an ideology. It doesn't feel like this is a strategy. What would this even look like for us to do this? Because you and I both know what we have on Monday waiting for us. We know, and we've looked ahead, and we've seen what Tuesday's going to have, and then we see Wednesday, and then we know next weekend, and then we're into May, and then it's June, and we might as well just start buying school supplies now, right? Because that's kind of where we're moving, and that's where we're drifting. And so what we do is we have subscribed to a myth, and the myth is, I will rest when the work is done. Yeah. See, you're already subscribing to this, this thing. I'll rest when the work is done. I'll rest when the house is clean. I'll rest when the lawn is mowed. I'll rest when the work is complete. And we buy into this myth. And here's the spoiler alert. Does the laundry ever end? Do the dishes ever end? Does the lawn ever stop growing? Especially when we get rain every 15 minutes this last week, right? Does taking care of the kids ever end? Does going to your grandkids' events, does it ever stop? So here's the truth. The myth is, when it's done, I'll rest. Well, that's not true. It's not going to end. Here's the truth. Work does not stop, so we have to. Your work will not stop. Your duties, your responsibilities, your chores, they're not going to stop. So you have to. Now, let's all admit something together. I think it's a safe room. If not, well, then there'll be judgment, okay? And then you'll be all right. We don't like to stop. I don't like to stop. There's something inside of me that gets all twitchy, right? Feels like I need to do something. We don't even want to do it. Believe it or not, you and I, and this is going to be interesting for us, you and I have the same characteristics as sheep. Yeah, there's a stretch for you, isn't it? This is random. Hang with me. Sheep. What? I thought you said this church was. I know. Hang with me. Sheep. In the scriptures, there's over 500 references in scripture where you and I are compared to sheep. And then God is referred to as our shepherd. And today I want to look at one of these passages. You already probably have heard it before, but I'm going to look at it anyway. And so one of these things that we do is there's 500 references where you and I are referred to sheep, and God is referred to as the shepherd, and it explains how we're supposed to enter into this rest activity because you and I, like sheep, are not good at rest. Psalm 23. Psalm 23 says this, "The Lord is my shepherd," which means you and I are sheep. "I shall not want." but we kind of do. He makes me lie down in green pasture. He leads me beside still waters, and he restores, restoration, my soul. And here's what we learn in this verse, even though we don't pay attention to it because we just think, oh, that's cute, that's nice. Let's put it on the refrigerator. Restoration begins with rest. Did you notice back in verse 2 that before restoration, before he restores your soul, you have to lie down? Verse 3. And he says, David was a shepherd. Anybody in here a shepherd today? Okay. So I read a book, because I'm not either. I read this article by Philip Keller, not Timothy Keller, Philip Keller, and he says this: the strange thing about sheep is that because of their very makeup, it's almost impossible for them to be made to lie down, which is so similar to you, isn't it? It's similar to me. I can't make you lie down. You look at me and go, no, can't make me. All right, fair. He says it's almost impossible for them to be made to lie down unless there's 4 requirements that are met. Before a sheep will lay down and rest, 4 requirements must take place in their life. They must be free from all fear. They must be free from all tension, must be free from all aggravation and hunger. And I know what you're thinking. Well, yeah, if I was free from all that, maybe I could rest. But I'm always aggravated. If you have a high school student, they're always hungry, even when they're not. There's always tension. There's always some relational complexities that you're trying to manage, right? And then there's fear that you're not going to be able to keep up and make it through this week. There's fear of our future. There's tension, relationships. There may be aggravation because something was done to you, said to you, did happen to you. And I'm confident that you're probably hungering for something. Even if it's not food, you're hungering for something. Maybe it's the reason you're here today. And so we see this list, and we look at that list that we had up there, and the problem is, I can't really get rid of a lot of those things. And so Philip Keller says that sheep are helpless creatures. They can't do anything about those 4 things on their own. There's only one thing that makes a difference in the sheep's life to help those requirements be met so they can experience rest, and it's the presence of a shepherd. It's the one thing that can remove the threat, remove the fear, remove the aggravation. It's the one that can allow the hunger of the sheep to be met. And so you and I enter this and we see those 4 things and we go, I can't get rid of all those things. How am I just going to go, okay, I won't be afraid anymore. Okay, done, check. I'm not going to be aggravated. You say that, but then you go to social media and boom, it's back, right? You say you're not going to, I'll just get rid of tension. Then you turned on the news or you looked at your calendar. If I can meet all these requirements, then I'll rest. But what we find in this Psalm, 23rd Psalm, rest is not the absence of something in your life. It's the presence of someone in your life. And that someone is the Lord. So generations after David writes this psalm and he's shepherding and he's reflecting on being a shepherd and he goes, I'm looking at these sheep and they won't lie down, and so I've got to be proactive in my response and my responsibility to them, and the Lord treats me the same way. Well, hundreds of years after David writes those letters, there's a Jewish rabbi named Jesus who enters from Nazareth, enters into the town and community of Jerusalem and all of the Galilee area. And he says, hey, you guys have all heard about the shepherd. You know the Psalms. You know the stories of the Old Testament. You know about the pastoral shepherding lifestyle. And he looks at his followers and he looks at those in the crowd and he tells them, I am the good shepherd. And he gives them these things. He says, when I stop striving, he tells his followers, when you stop striving, Jesus starts restoring. Some of you are so concerned about fixing something or getting rid of something that Jesus doesn't even have the space and the place for restoring. Because even in the middle of burnout, the presence of the shepherd can bring us rest. So how do we do that? Well, Scripture enters us into this entire different thing that you and I have given up a long time ago, but it's something that was integrally a part of both the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it's this ancient idea called Sabbath. And Sabbath is a spiritual discipline that keeps us anchored to the presence of God. And so what this literally means in Hebrew is the word Shabbat. Shabbat. It means to stop, to cease, to be still, to be quiet. Now, what do you stop? Well, you have to stop the work you get paid for and the work you don't get paid for. You have to stop both of them for a season. Now, why did God introduce this idea, this phrase called Shabbat, which you and I would translate Sabbath? Why do we do this, and why is it so important? And why did God want the ancient Israelites, the ancient Hebrews, to build a rhythm into their lives so that they could remember their true identity? Because what we found in the Old Testament is that people would work to the point where all they know had worked. There had been generations of people working before the Exodus, where this commandment comes from. You had parents and grandparents, and all they knew was work. What do? Work, then die. Work, then die. Work, then die. Work, then die. And God wanted them to remember their true identity because their identity was not what they worked. He was trying to say, you're not slaves anymore. I am your God. You're my people. And that's not your identity anymore. So he wanted to have a system in place where they would remember that they had limits in their life because they had forgotten that. They just thought it was about work because that's what they were told. So in Exodus chapter 20, we begin to have one of these commands. And this is what Moses, who hears this from God, comes down the mountain and he tells this to the people. He says, remember the Sabbath day, the day that you're going to do nothing. You're not going to work, both the things you get paid for and the things you don't get paid for. You're going to remember that day and you're going to keep it holy. So 6 days, you're going to labor and do all your work, both the work you get paid for and the work you don't get paid for. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God, and on it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son. See, kids, you're going to love this. You're going to put this on the outside of your door. I would clean my room, but it said sons and daughters aren't supposed to do this today. Nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea. God worked so hard, and that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and he made it holy. Now, it wasn't just the 10 Commandments were created to kill joy and kill fun and to help us not maximize our lives. It wasn't about control. It was about creating a rhythm. It expanded over the years. Where there are written into the laws of the Old Testament and the Mishnah and the Torah, where we see laws about not only do you as individuals rest, there was this pattern of 6 and 1, 6 and 1. It expanded to your farm field. In the agrarian culture, it was you farm a field for 6 years, and then on the 7th year, that field must rest as well. Now, those practices are still in play today, but it was this 6 and 1, 6 and 1. Some of you grew up in our country in a time when there were still blue laws in the country. Blue laws. I remember when we first moved down to South Carolina years ago, and the blue laws were still in effect, and one county had a different blue law than the other county, and our mall, the county line went right through the middle of the mall, and half of the mall opened at 11 a.m. on Sunday, and the other half opened at noon on Sunday. The stores in the mall. A blue law is what took place in our culture where you didn't have stores that were open on Sunday. Some of you only know that as Chick-fil-A, right? Because you're like, where did that start? Because, man, I want a chicken sandwich today. And you're like, oh, it's Sunday, right? Ironically, Chick-fil-A usually outperforms and out-revenues all of their counterparts that are open 7 days a week. But back in the 80s, you couldn't go shopping on a Sunday. There were no activities on a Sunday. It was because of blue laws, which means, I know this is crazy, you had to plan ahead. If you needed milk and bread, you had to plan ahead because you weren't going anywhere. I don't mean the 1930s, the 1980s, 40 years ago, which may explain why some of you have been tired for the last 40 years. There was a system that was even a part of the way that we did commerce in our culture, in our country. Leviticus chapter 23, because you read that this week. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 31, it says, "You shall do no work at all on the Sabbath. This is to be a lasting ordinance for the generations to come, wherever you live. It is a day of Sabbath rest for you, and you must deny yourselves from the evening of the 9th day of the month until the following evening you are to observe the Sabbath." Why? Because it's how you and I were designed. You and I were not designed to go. Now, Aaron and I have a habit where we will watch Netflix before going to bed. It takes us forever to get through a Netflix show because we're good for about 10 minutes and then we fall asleep. And so it takes us a long time. And so Aaron and I started watching this show. By the way, one of the best shows, if you're not sleeping well, try The Crown. Man, that'll knock you right out after about 5 minutes. It's great. Oh, I know. Dear Pastor Paul, that was a difficult reductionist view of The Crown, and I didn't appreciate how you lowered that. Yeah, okay. Right, yeah. So we started this show called Live to 100, The Secrets of the Blue Zone, where it's this documentary where they're looking at different communities around the world where these people are living to 100 and beyond. They're living past 100, and so we've been watching this show about communities where they have these unusual life expectancies. Big shock. One of the things, among others, obviously one is like don't eat garbage and not on your phone all the time and all this kind of stuff. But one of the big reasons was around activity and rest. These communities take very seriously this, and these communities are living all of that. And it's been pretty interesting. I mean, we've made it almost 15 minutes every night. It's been great. It's been really good. But observing the Sabbath can offer a respite from the busyness and distraction of everyday life. By setting aside one day a week as sacred times, individuals can create space to commune with God and cultivate a sense of gratitude for the blessings in their life. Sabbath provides the opportunity to recharge and reconnect with your faith. During Sabbath, the ancient Hebrews were told their value and worth is not driven by your productivity. Until the Sabbath command, an individual's value was determined based solely off of if they hit their quota. Did you hit your goal? Did you win? Did you achieve? Did everyone get fed? Was every bill paid? Did you make it on time? Is the lawn mowed? So Moses and Aaron hear from God. So God gives this law, this command. Hey, you should observe the Sabbath. Keep it holy. And they're like, great. That's wonderful. Now we need to go tell our boss. Hey, just so you know, boss, we just heard from God, and God said we're not going to work 7 days anymore. We're only going to work 6. Thought you should know. So Moses and Aaron decide to go tell Pharaoh, hey, just so you know, we just negotiated with God, and we don't want to be burned out anymore, and we need more than a vacation. We're not here to negotiate vacation. We want a different way of living. So we want you to know that as we start our first labor strike in the history of the world, and we begin to negotiate the terms of labor laws, Moses and Aaron sit down with Pharaoh and said, we're only going to work 6 days, and on the 7th day, we're going to take a break. And this is the response to that story, Exodus chapter 5. But the king of Egypt says, and this is a real shocker, Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to work. It wouldn't be great if we all had a day off. Get back to work. Then Pharaoh said, look, the people of the land are now so numerous, and why are you stopping them from working? Well, the same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. This negotiation did not go well because Pharaoh responds and says, look, now we're not going to give you any straw to make your bricks. See how you like that? Go find your own straw. Gather your own straw to make your own. but require them to make the same number. Your productivity is going to be the same, but now not only have to make bricks, you got to go get your own straw and your own materials to make the bricks because now you've ticked me off. But tell them don't reduce the quota. They're lazy. That's why they're crying out. Let us go and sacrifice to our God. Yeah, you're lazy. Make the work harder for the people so that they keep working and pay no attention to these lies. Then the slave drivers and the overseers went out and said to the people, this is what Pharaoh says. I'm not giving you any more straw. Go get your own straw wherever you can find it, but your work will not be reduced at all. See, this is why we need a Sabbath. Because if not, we get confused to think that our value and worth is based off of our productivity, how well we did, what our grades are, if the house is clean, if the lawn is mowed, did we complete the list? Have we started a new list? What are your stats in sports right now? What are your grades? How are your finances? What kind of car do you drive? How well adjusted are your kids? What's the maintenance list on your house? And God said, here's what you need. You're running, and you're burnt out. And a nap and a day off isn't going to fix it. You need a lifestyle shift. Now, how do we start that, right? This could involve lighting candles on Saturday evening to mark the beginning of Sabbath and just take a break. Maybe just take a break from technology and you just spend time with loved ones engaging in the activities that bring you joy and peace. Sabbath could be as simple as doing activities that bring you joy and peace. Could be, celebrating a time, creating sacred space. Could be saying blessings before meals or reciting prayers daily. Because we live in a world where we're constantly going beyond our limits because of light bulbs, right? We don't have to get up and work based off of the limits of the sun. We have technology that allows us to work remote, which means that the workday doesn't even end at 4, 4:30, 5, or whenever your shift ends. Your workday can extend as long as you want it to. And because we have that, we get physically and emotionally depleted over time. And God's saying, I want you to stop for one day of the week and remember that you have a limit. And it's a reminder that you're actually capable for more than you're able to accomplish right now. I'll be honest. There was a time in my life when I thought Sabbath was just a terrible idea and a complete waste of time. When I was a kid, I grew up at the very front end of travel sports, and it wasn't travel all over the Midwest. It was travel all over Northwest Indiana. And if I had a game that conflicted with church, I wasn't allowed to go to the game. And I thought, what? How dumb is that? It's the front end of that. It has gone way beyond that. And we've been depleted. Sabbath is not taking something away from you. It's helping you. It's more about delight, helping you be able to enjoy and have delight in your life. It's an invitation to enjoying God by filling you and giving your life. So what gives you life? Some of you, if I said, today, take the rest of the day and do nothing, you wouldn't know what to do. You don't remember what fills your tank. You don't remember because now even walking and running has turned into, I got to get this amount of steps in, and I got to get this in, and my time's got to get lower. But God has given this gift as a gift from your heavenly Father. And James, the brother of Jesus, said this about gifts. He says, every good and perfect gift, like Sabbath, is coming down from the Father of heaven above. Heavenly lights, who does not change. He doesn't change like the ocean or the shifting shadow. The Sabbath is an opportunity to fill your day, one day a week, with some things that give you life, that don't take life. Ronald Rolheiser writes this. He said, the highest compliment we can give a gift giver is to enjoy the gift thoroughly. So I'm going to give you some reasonable things to process here today. Give yourself a few guidelines one day a week. One day a week. No work emails. No texts for work. Don't plan something one day a week that makes you rush out of the house in the morning. One day, try to have something where you have an opportunity for ease at night. One day, eat well. Go for a walk, go for a hike. Go to the park as a family. How do you get started with that? For some of you, let me just give you a real baby step. Some of you that thought about taking an entire day dedicated to restoration, it just seems like a pipe dream. So maybe you need to start with 4 hours. Some of you may just take 2 hours. Take 2 hours, leave your phone and your laptop, leave the chores. I know, some of you just twitched even thinking that. And do something that gives life. And this will require some planning. This may require you to say the most dreaded word in our culture, no. So be realistic. Don't say, oh, I'm going to take the whole day. Well, you're not. Maybe start with 4 hours. Start with 2 hours. And try to remember what you enjoy. What do you enjoy? Then do it. If someone were to give you the day off tomorrow, would you know how to use it? If you could, it's a way to enter God's rest. So if it's a walk for you, go take a walk. If it's fishing, unless fishing is your job, go fish. For me, I like working in the yard. That gives me rest. It's not a burden. Now, if that's your job to do that, probably not a good idea then. Take a day. It's an invitation from God. It's a gift from God. It's not a command from God. It's a gift from God. Some of you are convinced that you think, yeah, but my life is so pressure-filled and pressure-packed, and once we get to June, well, I already looked at June. June's not better. God wants to give you this gift. And here's what I found out in my own life. When we're pushed to the max, you know the first area we cut in our life? It's our faith. And so wouldn't it be smart of us to take time to spend time with the shepherd and have him move and remove some things in our life that are causing fear and aggravation, hunger and tension? And may some moments in his presence do something that we couldn't do with a nap, which is provide some restoration. So today, on this Mother's Day, if you want to write some prayers out and pin it to the cross, there's paper in front of you. If you want to take communion and remember that your identity is found in Jesus, not in what you do, take communion today. Take it back to your seat. Take the bread, take the cup, drink it. Maybe today you just need a light because you are just fried and you're not even sure how you're going to make it through this next week. Maybe you just need to sit and look at your calendar for this week. Find some things that can go delete. Find a window today, maybe an hour today. What can you do that can create rest so the shepherd can shepherd your life and remove some things? Fear, aggravation, hunger, tension. Can I pray with you? And then we're going to sing. We're going to sing 2 songs this morning, and the reason is you need more time. You really do. You need some more time with your Heavenly Father today. Father, today, as we close, we want to just say thank you for giving us this gift. We haven't been using this gift. We got this gift, and we set it on the shelf. We're not even sure how to wear this gift. We don't even know if this gift fits. So God, this gift that you have given us, the Sabbath, would you help us to at least try it in whatever capacity may work best for us today? Help us to start small in receiving and enjoying the gift you've given us, because if not, burnout has already said and taken too much in our lives. We love you. Amen.
Thanks for joining us this week. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so that you're informed about what's taking place here at Gathering Point. Perhaps you're ready to take a next step. We'd like for you to text GP Next Step to 97000. We look forward to seeing you soon.